As you guys know, I'm a huge Marvel fan, but I do have a soft spot for DC. I always have, and it's been a little while since I've shown DC some love, so that's the goal here today. So, in case you haven't heard by now, James Gunn has come out and announced the plan for the next few years when it comes to DC. He recently took charge as the co-CEO of the new DC Studios, meaning that him, along with Peter Safran, his producer, are basically going to be the Kevin Feige of the DC universe. And he's been teasing an announcement for quite some time now. It happened today. So sort of similar to that video I did on Marvel back in like July of last year. Basically going to be doing the same thing today with this new DC lineup, talking about what's coming, including some of the things coming out in the next year. And yeah, this is a brand new beginning for DC, and right off the bat, I'm looking forward to where they're going. Some things I don't know much about, other things I'm actually pretty excited for. So at the beginning of the announcement, James Gunn said that any other DC projects that are sort of still going on right now, such as Matt Reeves' Batman universe, of course, Todd Phillips' Joker universe. Those films will be rebranded as DC Elseworlds. So those series and those iterations of those characters are going to get to continue in their own offshoot reality. So DC's basically getting to the multiverse right from the get-go. So in the next couple of years, of course, we'll be getting the Batman 2. Joker 2 is filming right now. And as you guys know, I enjoyed Joker. It was very influential in my life. And I also really enjoy the Batman. So the fact that those series get to continue is something that I'm sure a lot of people and fans of those movies are very happy about. Shows like Teen Titans Go are going to keep going, which I haven't actually watched it. I've only seen the movie, so I guess that's cool to the fans of that show. And then, of course, we actually have, I think, 4 DC movies coming out this year that were part of the original DCEU. First one's coming to us in March. It's Shazam! Fury of the Gods. James Gunn made an interesting comment in the video. He said that Shazam is sort of set in its own corner of the DC universe. And I feel like you could easily take the first Shazam movie and, whatever is planned for this Shazam sequel and sort of integrate it into what James Gunn is doing with this new DC universe. Because they mention those characters. They mention Batman and Superman, but, those actors are nowhere to be found, so it could easily just be whoever the new actors playing those characters are. When Superman, spoiler alert, shows up at the end of Shazam, if we don't see Henry Cavill. So it could just be whoever the new Superman is, and they can just say that Shazam has been part of this new universe all along. I'd actually be really okay with that. After that is The Flash in June. This one, according to James Gunn, is going to reset everything, so this is probably going to be the big catalyst for the new DC universe. It's going to adapt the Flashpoint storyline. It's going to have the multiverse in it, and despite the controversy surrounding it, I'm pretty eager to see what this movie's got in store for fans of the Flash character and fans of DC as a whole. Always been a fan of the Flash, really got into him when the CW show first started, and while I haven't seen the recent seasons of that show, I think the first couple of seasons were pretty enjoyable. So it'll be nice after all these years, all these delays, and all these controversies to finally get The Flash on the big screen. After that is Blue Beetle in August, which, I don't know much about Blue Beetle, but I'm interested in what they have in store for it. You could easily just take that and put it in this new DC Universe lineup. I'd imagine there's not a whole lot of connections to the previous DCEU. Then finally in December, we're getting Aquaman 2, which I don't know, I'm just, whatever. Like, the first Aquaman is one of the few movies that I enjoyed when I first watched it, but for some reason have not revisited it. And I think Aquaman 2 should be a fine time, but I guess according to James Gunn, it is going to be a part of this in some way. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. But yeah, those are all the pre-announced movies that we're getting this year to sort of neatly tie up the previous DCEU and lead us into the new DCU. So I guess the new DCU is going to be doing chapters, a bunch of films that cover the course of a few years, kind of like how Marvel does phases. And this first one is called Gods and Monsters. These projects are all coming out between the years 2025 and 2027. So without further ado, let's get into what these new announcements are. These are the new DC projects as part of the new DC universe run by James Gunn. The first one is a show called Creature Commandos. It's going to be an animated series on HBO Max. And according to James Gunn, they're going to take the Star Wars approach and have this animated show still be important to the grand scheme of things. Characters who appear in this show will also appear in live action projects played by the same actors. I don't know much about the Creature Commandos, but apparently Weasel from the Suicide Squad is returning, and how does that not excite you? After that, confirmed, we are getting an Amanda Waller series headlined by Viola Davis. It looks like they're not doing a second season of Peacemaker. Instead, this Amanda Waller show will be the continuation of Peacemaker. I don't know how they could make a show about Amanda Waller, like, super engaging, but hey, I'm interested. Viola Davis is great. The next one is a film coming to us in July of 2025. This is the big one. This is why I wore this shirt for the video. although it is Cavill's Superman, so I guess that's a bit of a slap in the face. This is the Superman movie that James Gunn is writing. It's called Superman Legacy. I guess on that note, I should really talk about Henry Cavill, because I haven't really mentioned that on this channel at all. I was a big fan of Cavill, and it was really, he was the whole reason I saw Black Adam the first weekend it came out. And to have this big, grand announcement that he was coming back, only 2 months later to be told that he's not, that hurt a little bit, as I'm sure many people can agree. So as unfortunate as it is to see him go, I am very excited about this new Superman movie. From the sound of it, it seems like it's going to be very, old-fashioned Superman, truth, justice, the American way. He's living in a world where he's all about, kindness and helping people in a world that has sort of abandoned that mindset. He's going to be younger. It won't really be an origin story, but I imagine it'll be early days of Superman. And I'm really excited for an optimistic, upbeat take on Superman, because that's what he's all about. I liked Henry Cavill. I like what he brought to the character of Superman, but it has been a while since we got a really good take on Superman that I've seen. I haven't seen the Superman and Lois show, although I've heard good things. So yeah, this is probably the one I'm most excited for. It's been a while, and I think we need a new Superman story. One that can fit into our modern world, but also one that appreciates the early days of the character and what he represents. There's nobody cast in this role yet. I feel like they're gonna take the Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill approach and get somebody who's not super established, maybe even completely unknown. And yeah, I'm just genuinely excited for this. It's so easy to say Superman is boring, but when you think about what he's all about, I just hope James Gunn gives us the best possible Superman he can. Hopefully tone-wise more in line with something like Guardians of the Galaxy, as opposed to Suicide Squad. And yeah, Superman Legacy coming to us in 2025. Awesome. Next up we have Lanterns. This is a Green Lantern series coming to HBO Max. There's been one in development for quite some time, many years. I think I remember being in high school and hearing that the show was being developed. But I guess the original version they had in mind is scrapped, so they're going with this new one. It's going to center on Hal Jordan and John Stewart, probably the most iconic Green Lanterns you could pick. It's going to be a true detective style show, and according to James Gunn, it's going to play a big role in the new DCU. And yet another moment where I talk about something that I haven't seen, even though I probably should have. I have not seen the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. I know it was meant to start the DCEU way back in the day, but I just, I just never heard good things about it, so I just figured, why waste my time? So I think the world could use a new, exciting take on Green Lantern, so hopefully we get it in the form of this show. Looking forward to it. Definitely will check this one out. Alright, the next one is a film. It's called The Authority.
And you will respect my authority!
If you know what that is, great. I've never heard of these guys. So I guess they're a team of anti-heroes who believe that the world is broken and needs fixing. So I guess that's different enough from the Suicide Squad to earn a spot in this lineup. The Suicide Squad are sort of reluctantly doing what they do, but these guys, from the sound of it, take it upon themselves to make the world better. And yeah, I feel like you can do some cool, fun, interesting things with that concept. I just don't know enough about these characters to really get pumped about it, but I'm eager to see what they're all about. Alright, the next one is a series called Paradise Lost. If you've been paying attention to the news the last few months, you would know that Patty Jenkins is no longer doing Wonder Woman 3. Not sure how Wonder Woman will fit into this lineup, but from the sound of it, the seeds for Wonder Woman in this new DC universe will be planted in the Paradise Lost series. This one explores the origins of Themyscira, of course the island where Wonder Woman is from. So I imagine they'll establish Themyscira as its own thing in this series, and then down the line, maybe chapter 2, establish the new Wonder Woman, which that'll be tricky because the first Wonder Woman is pretty solid. I don't know how they can top it and make it fresh and new enough to really stand on its own without people comparing it too much to the 2017 Wonder Woman, but they're saying it's going to be a Game of Thrones type series, so again, don't know much about Themyscira other than, Wonder Woman's involvement with it. So interested in checking this one out. Bring it on. Now we're getting the Batman 2 from the sound of it in October of 2025, but it sounds like we are getting another live-action Batman in the form of a film called The Brave and the Bold. And while the prospect of yet another live-action Batman, not to mention at the same time that Matt Reeves' Batman series is going to be going on, is kind of crazy to me. It's just how many Batmans have we gotten in the last 10 years? But the one thing that has me eager about this one is the fact that it's taking on a Batman story that hasn't been done in live action yet. It is going to be all about Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin. So not only are we getting Robin again, but it's going to be the Damian Wayne version, which, as you may know, Damian Wayne is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul. So yeah, this will be a Batman movie unlike one we've had before. I could not imagine who's going to play the new Batman. At this point, we had Ben Affleck, we had Robert Pattinson, two actors that I could have never imagined as Batman. And like I said, the Batman universe with Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson is still going to be going on. So even if this new Batman casting is weird, at least we'll have this other Batman. And with the multiverse, it's not that confusing to me to have two completely different Batmans, happening at the same time. So I'm just very interested in seeing what the Brave and the Bold. I feel like they're going to add Batman to that title later down the line, so it'll be called Batman the Brave and the Bold. But it's going to be interesting to see this new version of Batman. It's so crazy to say that. I feel like I've said that so many times in the last few years. But yes, a new version of Batman, Damian Wayne as Robin, should be coming around 2026, I would imagine. The new DCU is obviously going to need Batman in it, and if they're going to stick to their word and start fresh and new, I guess that means a new Batman. So I'm eager to see what they can bring to Batman after all these recent adaptations of him. And I love Batman as a character. I can't get enough of him, so at the end of the day, it's a Batman movie, bring it on, I'll take it. Next up, we're getting a Booster Gold series on HBO Max. I don't know too much about Booster Gold, but I've heard his name plenty of times, so this should be a very exciting concept to a lot of people. James Gunn describes Booster Gold as a hero struggling with imposter syndrome, which hopefully can be done in a way that it's fresh, new, and exciting. This is not a character I'm very familiar with, so I don't want to say too much at the fear of offending lifelong Booster Gold fans, but I'm eager to see what they can do with this character. I'm all about taking characters I've never heard of and telling a good story involving them, like characters like Shang-Chi, who I knew nothing about before. Hopefully the same happens with Booster Gold. But the next one is pretty exciting to me because we are getting a Supergirl movie. This will be the second time Supergirl's been in a movie. They did one in the 80s, haven't seen it, and this will be the third take on Supergirl in recent years. There was, of course, the CW show Supergirl, which, if I could just talk about that real quick, I wasn't a big fan of that show. The thing with that show is it's kind of the same premise as a normal Superman story. She gets sent to Earth from Krypton. She gets raised by this loving family, and she does what Superman does. To me, there just wasn't a whole lot setting her apart from Superman. When Superman came in, I was just so interested in what he was doing, because it's Superman. But this sounds like it's going to be a very different take on Supergirl. The film is called Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So I guess the premise here is that, unlike Superman, who, like I said, was raised on Earth by a loving family, this version of Supergirl was raised on this, chunk of Krypton. I guess there were survivors. And the first 14 years of her life, she watches everybody she loved just die, one after another. And then she goes to Earth. So she's a lot more darker than Superman. James Gunn described her as a bit more jaded, much more hardcore, so this will be very different from any version of Supergirl that I've seen, at least. And most importantly, it'll set her apart from Superman, where you have Superman, this kind, loving, and hopeful person. Supergirl will be darker, more pessimistic. There's a nice balance there. And there's a lot you can do with the Superman-Supergirl relationship. For years, Superman was just on Earth. He didn't know his cousin was alive, and then she comes to Earth. They could potentially do a Superman-Supergirl story that could be really compelling. So I never thought the day would come that I'd be really excited for a Supergirl movie. That being said, that day has come, because I'm very excited for this Supergirl movie. And finally, the last film announced is Swamp Thing. Again, this is a character I have heard a lot about, but don't know too much about what his deal is. I know he's just a creature of a swamp. There was a series on Swamp Thing that was on the original DC Universe streaming service, which eventually became HBO Max. And this one's going to be straight up horror, which should be an interesting addition to this DC lineup. That's one thing I like about this DC lineup, is it looks like there's plenty of variation. Something I kind of wish Marvel would strive for a little bit more. I love Marvel, but a lot of their films tone-wise are pretty similar. But in this new DC lineup, you'll have this Superman story, which is hopeful and uplifting. You'll have things like the Suicide Squad and this new Supergirl movie, which are a little bit more darker and edgier. And then you'll have Swamp Thing, which is just straight up horror. So I'm interested in seeing how that fits into the whole universe. So yeah, that is chapter 1 of the new DC universe. I'm sure we'll be getting more announcements in the years to come, but now we've got plenty of cool projects to hold us over for the next few years. And even then, apparently James Gunn has said that this isn't even the complete lineup for chapter 1, so probably more announcements sooner than we think. And yeah, I'm really hopeful here. I'm really hopeful that DC can finally find its footing, establish itself as a concrete, connected, cinematic universe. And I like the fact that they're taking risks. I like the fact that Chapter 1 or Phase 1 is Swamp Thing and The Authority and a dark Supergirl. They're not going for the expected, the Aquamans or the Flashes or Wonder Womans. And if they are, there's a twist to it, a Themyscira series that doesn't really focus on Wonder Woman. And according to James Gunn, all of these projects, they are in the same universe. They are important to the whole universe. So it's been a while since I've been excited for something DC related, but I think this is the beginning of something really cool in James Gunn I trust. So yeah, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know I said in the last video that my next video would be a Lost Media video, but you know, announcements like this happen, and I want to get my take on it. But I promise you, the Lost Media video, it's coming. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll see exactly when it comes out. So please feel free to do that. Like, comment, ring the bell, do whatever it is you YouTube folks do. And with that, that is all for me today. Stay frosty, all you beautiful people. Have a great one.